Hello everyone, welcome to E-Content Development Center of Majlis Arts and Science College. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dylan Davis of English Department, and today I'm going to talk about power, culture, hegemony, superstructure and infrastructure. Let's move on to the topic. Before discussing power, we have to know what hegemony is. Like, what is actually hegemony? Hegemony is the political, economical, ideological or cultural power influenced by a dominant group over the other. Hegemony maintains the power structure. Hegemony maintains the dominant cultures through literature, media, movies, art and education system. Hegemony normalizes dominant class ideas like like dowry, arranged marriage, cultural practices like superstitions through the literature, like through the medium, like whatever medium you can call, like movies or art. They kind of dominate or indoctrinate every child to benefit the dominant society. When we talk about power or hegemony, we have to talk about Antonio Gramsci. Like, Antonio Gramsci is an Italian communist or a Marxist who was imprisoned under Mussolini's age. Like, during his political imprisonment, he wrote a political work which named The Prisoner's Notebook, which talks about cultural materialism, or which talk about cultural hegemony. And when we talk about cultural hegemony, as I told, it is an elite class ideas. Like, the elite class dominant ideas are imposed or implicitly induced into the common men or to the minority section through literature and art. So that's what hegemony works. Like, that's how hegemony works. Gramsci was like always concerned about how this media act as a propaganda tool to promote the dominant class ideas, like of course the ideas of the elite class through medias. So the medias act as a dominant class propaganda tool, and medias are not that reliable as it says. For example, take the case of an elephant. Like, elephant is bound to a small chain or a small rope which it can easily break, but it never used to break it because from childhood the baby elephant is tortured and they were conditioned or they were institutionalized for the idea that you cannot break this chain from childhood. But even if it grows into an adult young elephant, it still hold on to its boundaries, freedom by the concealment of these chains. So that's how it is. That's how the dominant class ideas work. From childhood it is indoctrinated through every media the way it is possible, and it kind of implicitly impose every dominant class ideas to every certain section of the society. So when we talk about like power, like there is a quote which I always used to scroll upon Instagram and Facebook, like on the social medias, like it always used to pop up. The quote is like this: birds born in a cage think that flying is an illness. Of course, birds born in a cage think, like of course they will think that flying is an illness because they are confined to a space where they don't have to fly, and they were told or they were institutionalized the way they don't have to fly. So even if the cage opens, they will never fly, or they will never take a step outside the cage, not because they can't fly, and even they think that the flying itself is an illness or a disease. Like, if you look at the work of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, like most of the European intellectuals used to say that this work, Heart of Darkness, is a strong critique over colonialism, but it is not like that. So Chinua Achebe says that rather than it becomes an effective critique over colonialism, it kind of actually imposed the colonial ideology among people, like the Indians or Africans or Eastern countries. Like, those people are actually barbarian, uncivilized, and they have to, like, it is their duty of the Europeans or the Americans or the white people to civilize the rest of the world. So that thought itself is what you say barbarian and uncivilized, like to dominate over the other section of society is what we say hegemony is, or is what the power is. So that's how it works. Louis Althusser, in his work Ideology and Ideological State Apparatus, states that economy is the base of ideology, or materialism is the base of ideology. Those ideas are confined to certain place, certain limited ideology, like from where you were come across. Like for example, if you take the case of laborers, like the laborers will never know that they are dominated, they are exploited, or their ideas are insignificant. In case they think that okay, they got a job and they are meant to serve people, they are not to be like, they should be delighted for the job they were given. So that's how it works. If you take the case of women, like from the childhood, when they were baby, we used to give them dolls. Like when we give them dolls, people used to say like, it's just a doll, it has no political meaning, or it has nothing to do with what people used to claim. But we know that the doll, which is a structure or a symbol, it symbolizes the woman should be like, they should take care of people, they should take care of children, they should be mothers, they should be wives, they should not have an ideology, they are meant for nursing, they are meant for taking care. So that's why the ideology is symbolized through the meant of a doll. Through a doll, the idea is imposed among the girl children. So as we say, like ideology is an instrument through which exploitation and ideas are implemented among certain section of society by the dominant group. Superstructure consists of society's political and cultural system, like the dominant system, which includes family, religion, culture, media, art, law, education system. And when we talk about base consists of like the proletariat class, the working class people, the means of production, raw materials, the laborers, the economic base. So there is a link between the superstructure and the economical base, which means like the superstructure maintains the base and the base shapes superstructure. So when we talk about superstructures, like the family, it is where the ideas are indoctrinated to children from the very base. You guys know like which religion you have to choose, or which all things you have to hate, at which age you have to get married, at which age you have to go for work. So these ideas are imposed from what you say, from the family. Family is the greatest superstructure which people can't decentralize. And if you talk about religion, like as Karl Marx says, like religion is the opium of masses. Like if you want to control a long section of, like a long stretch of people, in a stretch you can use religion to control them. And in the case of political parties too, like which political parties you have to choose, and which all propagandas you have to believe, like which all superstitions, which all culture you have to impose on certain political parties. These things all comes from superstructures, and these superstructures feeds the economic or the proletariat class or the base structure. And we can divide this superstructure into two, like the political society and the civil society. The political society includes the government, the police officers, the military, the force, the threat. But if you talk about civil society, it includes media, culture, law, education system, or religion, or family. But the thing is that when we talk about the political system, they use force. Like a law is passed in the, like if a agriculture bill is passed, and which is it is passed by a threat, it is passed by a force, it is not implicitly induced into you. If you talk about religion, if you talk about culture, the ideas are implicitly induced, or which has your consent. Like the ideas are, you yourself are not conscious through like about these ideas. This military and police through force try to control or gain the control over the state. It is like a force, it is like threat, it doesn't have your consent. Like the idea are what you say, injected, not injected, it is forced into you. But in the case of religion and culture, it is like imposed in an unusual or implicit manner. Even you are not conscious about like what all ideologies are you preserves. As we had already talked about power, like power operates through cultural mechanism, and as I have told, like the power like the ruling class or the capitalist society or the economic base, like whatever it is, who holds the power, even if it is a Brahminical hegemony or even if it is a political hegemony, those ideas of the dominant class are given to or imposed through literature and art to the cultural society, and which in turn forms the cultural society or shapes the cultural society to think as the way the dominant class want you to think. So when we talk about the literary canon in English literature, like just take the case of William Shakespeare. Like William Shakespeare, we all know, like we used to consider him as classical, we used to consider him as like the 16th century, the most prominent writer of 16th century. And even some people, like even Ben Jonson told, like Shakespeare is not for an age but for all ages. So that's how the literary canon made Shakespeare look like. So when we talk about Shakespeare, like actually he used to write pulp fiction of the 16th century. He had wrote a lot of dramas so that he get a lot of money and a lot of people come to see his dramas. So that's how it works. But right now he is in the greatest canon of literature. So how it happened? So what is literature? Like literature has canon, like from the case of Geoffrey Chaucer, Spenser, Milton, Shakespeare, Wordsworth, Oscar Wilde, Virginia Woolf, this literary canon follows. So when we think about the world literature, we might think like only the Europeans have done the literary work. No, it's not. But the literature canon which was set by Europeans is all these characters from Chaucer to Virginia Woolf. Now the things are kind of decentralized. Now Salman Rushdie, even though he is Indian in origin, he comes from British native, still the structure or the sender is decentralized. We don't have to talk about all those things. So that's how the literary canon works. And some countries are first world countries and other countries like India are third world countries. So this so as I have told about Shakespeare, like Shakespeare's work includes like lot of thrill. It includes murder, it includes incest, it includes adultery, it includes love, it includes war, it includes emperors, kings, and it never talks about poor people. It never talks about the philosophical problems. It actually promotes the 16th century literature. What the 16th century people need, that's what Shakespeare wrote, and he made lot of money because of writing all those things. So when you ask a professor, like English professor, which all things are to be prescribed in a trust, like they will never suggest Chetan Bhagat, they will never suggest Agatha Christie, because like those are like not valued as literature canon. But if you say Shakespeare, oh wow, like Shakespeare. So that's how it is. That's how literary canon is formed. As we had discussed, power shapes culture, like power shapes culture through literature or media. But at some points, like the culture shapes power or culture threatens power. One such case is like what happened in Sabrimala. Like if a woman want to enter Sabrimala, she can, because it's her right. But the culture of Kerala never allow, or in culture of Kerala, not even a single woman had entered Sabrimala like all these centuries. So if a woman want to enter, like if a woman ask, like let me enter, the whole Kerala, like the whole culture of the Kerala is kind of threatened. Even the women stand against this act to protect their culture. So that's the power of culture, the power of culture to threaten the government. Even if how many people killed in Calicut, it doesn't matter. Like handing over power is like handing over culture. It is like losing their identity. So no cultural practice is innocent. No movie is innocent. No power is devoid of culture. No media is reliable. Everything stands to protect or propagate the ideas of superstructure. As it's the time to conclude this discussion, as I told, like if this be an error and upon me proved, like Antony Gramsci never writ, nor no man ever read Hegemony. Thank you.